All right, thank you, Nancy, and good morning, everybody. Today, my subject is polishing the mirror. Polishing the mirror, and it was inspired by the book by Ram Dass of the same title. Um, but I've always been fascinated with how we are all mirrors for each other, and how life itself mirrors back to us who we're being, how we're expressing, and how we're being perceived. And it seems like, you know, we have no problem seeing other people and how they are, but we need a mirror to see how we are. There's a story Ram Dass tells about a disreputable looking Sufi named Nasruddin. And he goes into a bank and he's attempting to do some banking business in the bank. And the bank teller asks him if he can identify himself. And he pulls out a mirror and he says, "Yep, that's me." Aside from the obvious physical mirror that reflects our physical being, a mirror is a metaphor. And it's a beloved metaphor used by mystics and spiritual teachers and poets. And the mirror as a metaphor represents a way for us to see ourselves, to see all the aspects of ourself clearly. And when a mirror is polished, right, when it's free of dust, it reflects light. And so life offers us mirrors. People in our lives offer us mirrors. And our own consciousness, our inner consciousness, is a mirror. It makes self reflection possible. So, what does a mirror show us? Well, it helps us see what we're thinking, it helps us see what we're feeling, it helps us see how we are acting or reacting. And it shows us our patterns, it shows us our conditioning, it shows us how we're creating life, how we're living life. And in particular, it helps us see how others are experiencing us. On the deepest level, the mirrors of life help us discover who we are, the essence of who we are, in our deepest, truest nature. Shams Tabrizi was Rumi's teacher, Rumi's beloved teacher. You read Rumi and he writes a lot about Shams. But Shams wisely said, the summary of the advice of all prophets is this: find yourself a mirror. Find yourself a mirror. Shams says all the prophets, all the wise beings, they advise you to find yourself a mirror. In other words, learn to see yourself clearly. And so we have the mirror of those that are close to us. We have the mirror of those that challenge us. We have the mirror of our collective society, which we've been looking into quite a bit. And we have the mirror of our own inner consciousness. I talk a lot about the importance of self-reflection and the ability to self-reflect, because we have to do that to grow spiritually, you know. And what is self-reflective in us is the consciousness in us. We call it the witness, we call it the observer. But that's the mirror capacity in us, the self-reflective capacity that can look at our thoughts and our feelings and how we're behaving and realize we're not that. We're looking at that. We're the witness observing that. And thank goodness for that. That's what we want to grow, is that witness capacity to see ourselves and give us feedback. So this light of consciousness in us enables us to observe ourselves and see where we're stuck. Of course, it can only show us if we're willing to look. And that's a big if, right? The ego part of us doesn't want to look. It's more inclined to say, I'm right. I'm never at fault. I have no need or interest uh, in considering any ways I might need to grow. And we're getting skillful in seeing that is when you're really growing. Is getting skillful in seeing, okay, I'm seriously resisting, but now I can get past that. Now I can take a step deeper and be willing to look and check ourselves. Realize there's always something that we should consider coming from even the most difficult mirror reflections. You may know someone who is deeply entrenched in that resistant ego, who can't, who just isn't ready yet to consider they could ever be wrong or have any need to change. Um, and what that's like, really, as far as mirrors go, it's kind of like hanging a sheet over the mirror of life, kind of a permanent sheet. And Rumi talks about this when he says, if you're irritated by every rub, how will your mirror be polished? I love that. It reminds me of, I used to read Carlos Castaneda books in my late teens, early 20s. And I remember Don Juan. He was the shaman. And he would talk about petty tyrants. And he would say, you should welcome the petty tyrants in your life. You should really welcome people that are difficult, because they show us where we're really attached to how we see ourselves, right? And so people mirroring to us that we might need to grow should be welcomed, you know? And it's not easy. It takes emotional maturity. It takes emotional intelligence to be willing to be rubbed, to be polished, and to be shown, where we are, how we're being. Amma used to say, my spiritual teacher Amma used to say about all of us coming to India to stay at the ashram with her, which was very austere. It was not a vacation going there. But she said that all of us coming there was like putting a bunch of rough stones together in a bag and tumbling them, so that as our rough edges rubbed each other, we would all become more smooth. That's part of the work, the hard work, really, of self-transformation and self-realization. And of course, her presence and spiritual guidance, and our own humility kept us willing to work on ourselves. That's key, is that willingness. And it does take that humility. Our society is, like I said, a really big collective mirror, and it's reflecting back to us right now some pretty disturbing things, like we were talking about before service. Division being stoked, and people reflecting no skill at dealing with their emotions and dealing with their anger and their fear, and thinking that violence is a reasonable choice. That's very concerning. And those reflections affect us, and we have to work to not let that energy become part of us, that fear become part of us, or that intolerance become part of us. If our whole country looked in the mirror with humility, we'd see there's so much healing and transformation and change that needs to happen. And that is actually a good thing. So that's the good part of, everything that's unconscious being revealed and being reflected is it's mirroring to us what needs work. And that's where we start. That's where we start. So I invite you to hold the vision with me that we as a collective society look at our problems with clear eyes and with humility and with a desire to heal and truly form a more perfect union. I love that. I love that saying. Let's form a more perfect union. People choosing to work on their skillfulness in communicating, choosing to want to develop understanding instead of just judging. People choosing to learn to take responsibility for their own energy, their own vibration, their own behavior. And we talk about becoming Christ, awakening the Christ within us. Well, becoming a Christ conscious person means taking responsibility every moment, every day, for what we bring energetically. And mirrors are really helpful for this. They show us what we're bringing quite often. People sometimes come to me for counseling, and they'll share what they're going through, and I start to see a pattern. I start to see that they keep getting the same negative responses from people in their life and life situations in their life, and I can see how they're creating it. And And I try to be a mirror so that they can see how they're creating it, and how, you know, we put this certain energy out and we keep getting it back and we don't like it, but what what we need to realize that's so obvious, we can see in others, not as well in ourselves, is that people tend to mirror us in whatever energy we are putting out. So we learn about ourselves through reflection. Sometimes it's painful, you know. There's a lot to learn, from how the world responds to us. But here's an example. I realized a long time ago that if I want to see love in the world, I have to be love in the world. I realized if I could reflect love, and in particular when I'm singing, because that's what I do. If I can come from my heart when I'm singing a song, that would mirror love to others, and they would start vibrating. They would start resonating with that same heart energy, and that love that's innate in them would awaken, and then they would mirror that back to me. And I caught on, wow, okay, this is a great way to feel a lot of love in life. Just put it out, put that love out. In so many years of touring, always going to new places, sometimes when you get up there on stage and you're looking at this sea of faces, you can feel people's energy, and you can feel sometimes people are pretty judgmental. I notice that for about the first 10 minutes, 10 seconds at least, they're looking at your clothes and they're having all sorts of opinions. But if I could be brave and I could just be strong in a vibration of love, which comes from my connection to spirit, to the mother, that I can change the energy, and not for everybody, but for most people. And it does take bravery, because there are sharp edges. People's thoughts, people's judgments are sharp edges in the world. If we're connected to the loving God of your being, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'm just reminding you all, which you already know, that if we're connected to the loving God of our being, then we can be in this tumble of rough edge stones that this world is, and be a conscious co-creator of us all becoming smoother, of us all becoming freer. So we can mirror any vibration, and the world is full of a real variety of mirrors vibrating at different frequencies. And if we pay attention, we might notice that if we're mirroring irritation or impatience or anger or arrogance, we're likely to inspire that vibration around us. I have really learned this. I've really learned to not go out, to not interact with anybody when I'm angry, right? I just I just don't, if I can help it. I wait till I calm that, because I know I'll get it back if I put it out. That vibration will come right back as a mirror. So hopefully, if we're putting out vibrations that are bringing back what we don't want, we get tired of thinking that it's everyone else's problem, and at some point we look in the mirror. As Sham said, and all the prophets knew, what is needed is to get yourself a mirror, and of course be willing to look in it and polish it. And polishing our mirror, as Ram Dass talks about, is getting the dust of our opinions and our behaviors and our projections, especially, off the mirror. So we see things as they are, and not through this filter of how we're projecting or our conditioning. You've probably noticed, I've really noticed that this phenomena of projection, which I learned, studying psychology eons ago, but this phenomena of projection has been so displayed in our society in recent times. And projection is when we see our own faults and weaknesses in others and accuse them of doing what we're doing. And often they're not doing that, they're innocent. But we don't see those faults and weaknesses in ourselves. It's like we look in the mirror and decide, that's not me, that's you. So it's I saw a funny meme. This woman was on the phone trying to comfort a friend who was upset, and she said, no, really, it's adorable when you blame everyone but yourself. And it reminds me of the teachings of Jesus that Jesus offered when we read the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 7. Jesus is actually given a pretty tough love sermon on how we judge others and their shortcomings, but we can't see our own because we're not looking in the mirror. In Matthew 7, chapter 7, verse 1, we read, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." And in verses 3 and 4, "Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye?" And he goes on to say, "Hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." So he's saying what Shams said, get yourself a mirror. You're going to need it to get that big log out. I used to practice a conscious movement form that's very similar to Tai Chi called Eju. In fact, I want to share it with the congregation at some point. And I became a teacher. I taught a lot of teacher training courses in Edu at Brighton Bush. And part of the practice of Edu is at the end of the practice, we get into pairs and we put our palms together and look into each other's eyes and we repeat affirmations. And we would say, there is no separation. I love the me I see. I am the me I see. Same in you, same in me. I allow you to be whatever you wish with no judgments or condemnation. And it was such a powerful practice because we keep switching partners. And so we'd look into many, many pairs of eyes and we'd keep saying this affirmation. I am the me I see. I allow you to be whatever you wish with no judgment or condemnation. And we just, see beyond the physical, and look into the mirror of the soul, which truly eyes really are. And some people, you could see that their eyes were clear and they just mirrored back this beautiful reflective light of consciousness. And some people, you could see there was this dust of inner conflict. You could see they were struggling, with difficult feelings. But this practice really allowed each one of us to see that all these aspects of being human are a part of me. And so the part where we offer acceptance to each other, we let each other be as we are, it was a practice in what Jesus was teaching. It was a way of saying, yeah, I see stuff in you, and I know at any given moment there's probably a log in my eye too. And that's where compassion comes in. I can allow us both to be human. I can forgive. I can let go and let go and let go again and again. And I can take responsibility for me, for my energy, for what I'm bringing to the world and how it's affecting others. So using the mirrors in our life and using our own practice of regular self-reflection, we come to see our conditioning. We come to see where we're stuck and we can do the work then to change ourselves and move further down that path of becoming a realized Christ being instead of, being a stuck human, being stuck. When you look into the eyes of a saint, when you look into the eyes of a very high being, it's like pure light. There isn't the dust, there isn't the conditioning. They're free of that conditioning. And there isn't personality stuff. There's just this clear mirror. They see God. They look at you and see God. They see where you're stuck, and they have great compassion for that. It's powerful to be seen with the eyes of unconditional love. And it's powerful to see with the clear eyes of love. When we as mirrors are clear, we reflect light. We reflect love. We reflect our true nature. There's a beautiful quote from Rumi that says, as you live deeper in the heart, the mirror gets clearer and cleaner. He also said, the beauty you see in me is a reflection of you. The beauty you see in me is a reflection of you. So in closing, may we all be willing to polish the mirror, be willing to remove the dust from our eyes, from our mirror, and regularly self-reflect and examine how we're living and who we're being. Our divine destiny is to fully embody and reflect the shining, loving face of God. Love is the face of God, as my song says. And that reflection, that reality is already here. We are the face of God. But it is a matter of continually polishing the mirror and removing the dust so that we see that and we are that fully. And we bring that fully. So I leave you with one last beautiful Rumi poem that says, do you know what you are? You are a manuscript of a divine letter. You are a mirror reflecting a noble face. The universe is not outside of you. Look inside yourself. Everything that you want, you are already that. God bless us all with peace and the clear, shining light of consciousness. So be it. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend.